Well, hello there, friends, and welcome to another edition of the 360 Experience podcast. I'm your host, Tim Brahim, and today I have a guest that I'm just getting to know, which is a little bit uncommon in this show because I am able to bring in so many friends that I've known for years, but I'm becoming friends very quickly with Caryn Grafton. Now, Caryn Grafton, I want to tell you a little bit about her. She is a very dynamic woman, and she has some great depth to her, which is what I really enjoy about talking with her. She is a longtime, super successful loan originator that has funded over 5,500 loans in her career. She's been ranked in Scotsman's Guide and other publications in the top 1% of originators in the United States. And she is now also a leader of many originators with her company, ACM. And I think that you're going to find in this conversation a lady who is bold but humble, that really understands the importance of managing your energy to develop relationships with realtors and builders, and understands how to articulate herself in a very beautiful way and to display her value proposition. We're going to talk about value propositions. We're going to talk about developing relationships in today's market and how important it is that you get out there belly to belly and connect with people. We're going to talk about builders, and we're going to talk about mindset. So buckle up, get ready. This is going to be a terrific episode. Now, before we get to the episode, I just want to say thank you, as always, for those of you that have listened to this show. And thank you to those of you that are subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, I would ask that you please click on the subscribe button. It really helps us a lot. The more subscribers we have, the easier it is for me to get guests on the show like Caryn. And if you find this to be a valuable episode, pass it around to your work colleagues. Make sure that they're listening to the show as well. I really love doing this show. I get a lot of great feedback from people as to how much they're getting value and they're learning from my conversations with all of these wonderful guests. And the more people that we have out there listening, the more we're making an impact on other people's lives and their careers, which is what the whole intention and purpose is behind this. Now, I want to also mention before we get to the episode that the Loan Atlas is our sponsor of the show. I highly recommend that you click on the link in the show notes below and get a demo scheduled of the Loan Atlas. It's making such a dramatic impact on the careers of so many mortgage professionals in today's market. And the faculty of 21 originators, including myself, are really thrilled to have members who are eager to learn and to grow and to improve in their business and their life. So check out the Loan Atlas when you get a chance. And without further ado, my conversation with Caryn Grafton in the 360 Experience. Caryn,
hello.
It's so nice to finally do this with you. I mean, and you know what's interesting is that it's not very often that I have someone on the show that I don't know, depthfully, because so many of the guests on my show are either clients of mine or people that I've worked with in the capacity as a teacher, that maybe guest speakers at my retreats and things of that nature. So this is going to be super fun for me to just get to know you better. We're more than just acquaintances at this point, hopefully in the process of becoming friends. And this could be the springboard for that. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And I'm looking forward to, this podcast and also just getting to know you better. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. So, I want to brag on you a little bit, 2021 to 2023, notoriety in Scotsman's Guide, ranked as one of the top 1% of originators in the United States. 5,500 loans, I believe you've funded over the course of your career. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. On my own origination. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's an astonishing number. So I want to let's create a foundation here. How long have you been in the mortgage business for, and how many years were you an originator, and are you still originating?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm still originating within my team, but I started in 2003, so 22 years of originating, and also just working, with realtors, with past clients, with builders, and managing large builder accounts in my area. Large realtor accounts in my area.
And when you say your area, let's create a geographic
Oh, yeah.
framework for people. Where are you located, and what markets do you serve?
Yeah, thank you. We're on the East Coast, Atlantic Coast Mortgage, and primarily I serve Virginia, Maryland, and DC. Primarily Virginia, Northern Virginia, which is close to DC. Our headquarters is in Fairfax, and my business has always been sort of from Winchester to Arlington, Virginia. So
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. You started 22 years ago as an originator. Tell me, like, if you can look back over the course of your career, I find that most great originators like yourself can kind of put a pin in certain events that happened during their career that were catalysts, like the things that they implemented that they think really took them to the next level. What are some of the things that you can reflect upon and share with us that you think had, everything to do with the success that you've achieved?
yeah. So, I mean, I fell into mortgages kind of like a lot of people. Friend's father owned a mortgage company, and another friend of mine worked there, and she was loving it. So she brought me. We kind of always helped each other get jobs. So she helped me get a job there, and was kind of thrown into it. It was a broker, so I really learned and cut my teeth from all the account reps that were there, kind of helping learn about different products. We had a ton of product, and we were buying leads, and we were advertising in the newspaper to get business. And so I almost got out of the business at the beginning because that really didn't feel right. I didn't know what would feel right, but it wasn't until I started working by referral and building strong relationships with realtor partners and builders where I just, really saw a lot of growth, and it really clicked with me on how I would want to do business, serve people well, and ask for, them to refer me to their friends, family, and coworkers. A lot of times you don't even have to ask. If you're doing a good job for people and you're creating a great experience, they'll refer you on their own. So I would say like 3 years into the business, luckily I stayed with it. I learned about working by referral and really had, dived into different systems of attracting business and building relationships. And that just felt right. And I loved it. And it really took off from there.
So
Yeah.
let me interject for a second and ask this question. So I always try to put myself in the shoes of the listener, and especially the listener that may be, struggling right now. I mean, it's obviously been a very challenging market over the last few years. It's interesting. It's fascinating to me, Caryn, because I've interviewed some really wonderful loan originators on this show, including Shant Banassian, who is the top originator in the country with guaranteed rate. Yep. Sam Rosenblatt, who I don't know if you know Sammy, but he's in the Maryland area, so not terribly far from you. He's a terrific loan originator.
Yeah, great originator.
Yeah, and Ryan Grant, et cetera. And it's like in Craig Strength, there's a common denominator that you also hold as well, which is you started off in the business and you started off with doing consumer direct, which is exactly how I started as well. And then you realized that there was a different way to do this job, which was to cultivate deep connected relationships and to do a wonderful job when you have an opportunity to do so, to build a reputation. And that's certainly a much easier way to do business ultimately, but it takes time. So how does one go about, how did you go about, perhaps would be the right way of saying it, how did you go about transitioning from consumer direct to building referral relationships? Like, what does that mean? Give us some context. Like, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of somebody who's like, but I don't have any people referring me business right now. How do we get someone to refer business to us? Tell us about that.
Yeah, and absolutely. And fast forward into the last 4 years of my career where my role is head of sales and head cheerleader and teaching people how to build their best life working by referral. So, I've had a lot of success in the last few years with even new originators to the business, teaching them systems. And the best, like your mindset is key, right? So you have to believe that it's possible. And you have to get to work. You have to engage people boldly to get together with you face to face and just learn about their business. If you're interested in them, they're going to be interested in what's going on with you. So we have an originator that works on my team. She started in the business June 2022. and she had no relationship. She came from teaching industry, and so she started, and basically she started reaching out to people that she knew and people that they knew. She asked people that were in her sphere, friends, family, coworkers, who do you know that's a good realtor right now? Who would you use if you were going to list your house for sale? And they would list off, local realtors in the Lynchburg area. And then she would call those people and say, hey, Tim referred me to you. They said if they were going to sell their house right now, they would use you, but they're not selling their house, but they do want, they think that we'd make a really good fit, and they think that we should get together for coffee. So I'd love to have coffee with you and get to know you better. And when you're first starting out, you don't have the funds to be doing lunches and dinners and all that stuff, but you got enough to have coffee. So just have coffee with people. And you don't have too many loans coming in, right? So you have a lot of time to be doing that lead generation work. And so this person hit the ground hard. She would meet with people, 10, noon, and 2 every day. And the deal started coming. She asked for the business, boldly asked for the business. She was brand new to the business. So she would just say, I'm on a team with, it has over X amount of experience, and we'd love to serve you. And people gave her a shot. And then she did a really good job for them. And then they gave her more shots. And then she kept doing those activities over and over again. And so what her goal is to build A+ clients, people that give you multiple referrals. And, the goal is to, depending on how much business you want to do, I noticed in my own career that the same people gave me most of the business. And I did close to 200 million in 2020. And it all came from, the same 10 to 15 people that had business, the builder reps and the realtors. There's that whole 80-20 rule, but it's more like 90-10. 10% of the people, the realtors right now, are doing 90% of the business. And if you can get in there with them and be their resource and really add value, then you're going to be their go-to person, and you're going to get to work, a lot with their clients. And the more people you work with and do well for, the more clients you'll receive and the more referrals you receive. And not to forget to ask for it, let people know, this is how I work. I want to do a really great job for you. Hoping to work with any friends, family, or coworkers that just point in my direction. I'd love to serve them, be a resource for their mortgage questions.
So there's so much wisdom in what you shared, and I'm really glad that we started here, because I think that it's really good for us in today's market for us to unpack this further. So let's spend a little bit more time here. What I heard you say, there are a few things that I think are really, really important that you said. The first thing is not spending your time sitting at your desk, but getting out into the field and hunting. This is a hunting business, and it's a connection business. And then not being afraid to ask for what you need. And this is a really important topic, because the word that comes to mind for me, and it's in all of my coaching of clients, it comes up in my life for me, it comes up in my wife's life for her, and for all of my clients, and I presume everybody else out there, is the word of worthiness. And worthiness is a very, very important thing to examine. Like, in what areas do you not feel worthy of asking for what you need or what you want? Like, and it can, take the shape and form of, I don't feel like I know enough. I don't feel like I'll do a good job. These are areas of focus where we need to be able to bolster that insecurity we have within ourselves. We also can at times run into the story that's running in our consciousness of, I don't want to inconvenience people. I don't want to, make them feel put on the spot. And these are all just stories, of course. So what I love so much about the example that you've given is you have this young originator. She's been a school teacher. She's never done loans before. And she simply did just one thing. She just asked people to help her. And by asking people to help you, you'll be surprised as to how many people will be willing to.
So, just to give you some perspective, on her first full year in the business, she closed 60 loans.
That's awesome.
In her second, and she started June 2022. So everyone was running from the mortgage industry. She was running towards it. She didn't know any different, and her, she's got a great mindset. She believes things are possible. Her kind of quote was like, "I'm going to shoot my shot and see what happens." The second full year in the business, she did 95 loans.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you bring up mindset, and I want to go there. I want to talk about builders in a minute as well. But just sticking with this topic for a moment, I was coaching a client not long ago, just a few weeks ago. And she's a woman actually in your marketplace. And she might be the nicest human being I've ever met. I mean, she is just a sweet, sweet person. And she really loves to help people. So I said to her, I'm like, describe for me what it feels like when you serve another person. And she just lit up and she was like, oh my gosh, my heart feels so full. And I just love seeing the possibilities in helping someone break through in an area of their life, or help serve them on their finances, or help introduce them to somebody that might be impactful in their life. And it's like, say more. And I really got her into the feeling of what it feels like to give, because I know how much she loves to. Yep. And then I hit her between the eyes, which is my job as a coach. And I said to her, so let me ask you a question. Why is it that you're robbing everybody that you know of that feeling? Yeah. And she just like stopped. And I said, listen, you need to let people help you too. You need to give people the opportunity to have that same feeling that you just described to me, but you're thwarting that from happening because you're not willing to say, hey, can you help me? And that's the beauty of the story that I'm hearing about this colleague of yours, is that she's not shy about going out there and saying, hey, I need your help. Who can you introduce me to that might be a valuable connection for me to help me grow my business? And if you take nothing else away, listener, from this conversation, take that. Like, just get out there and ask for help. I mean, you know people, you have friends, you have family members, you have former college roommates, you have, former work colleagues. Probably in the case of this lady, I'm sure that she probably went to some of the school teachers she used to teach with and asked them to introduce her to people. And boom, the next thing you know, because she's active, she's engaging the world and asking for help, you never know what you're going to run into. But let's go to the subject matter of mindset, because I think that that's an important thing that I'd love to hear your take on that, because I know that a part of your current role is to coach your originators on mindset. You described this woman as having a great mindset. Some people have one, and some people need some recalibrating of their mindset. Yeah,
absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about.
So I actually grew up in a pretty negative household, and so I've been working on my own mindset for a really long time. So I feel like I'm in sync with folks that are going through that stuff as well. But my thing is no fear, no self-pity, and no judgment. That's what I work on all the time. So when you have a thought that goes through your head, you're like, is this true? Like, is this thought just a fear? Like, where's this coming from, right? And just examining, being aware of the thoughts that are coming through your brain, right? And if they're helpful, right? And a lot of times we sit there and we stew in our brain and we don't get into our body. Like you said, she was doing the activities, right? And she was living more in the moment, in the present, and not really letting fear take over. And surprisingly, like, people were willing to meet, she was surprised. They were willing to meet. They connected with, when she sat down, she was adopted from Ethiopia, and she was talking about that, and she was connecting with people on all kinds of things. And not every deal, every person she met with led to a quick referral right away, but she was, planting seeds constantly. And if she wasn't necessarily getting business, she was sharing about her adoption or her teaching experience or connecting in some way, which, if you're in sales, it's your job as a loan officer. Like, a lot of loan officers think I need to know everything about the file and all the products, but really your number one job is lead generation. If you don't have a lead to work on, you don't need to know product, right? Like, you have to generate leads, and that's the number one thing that makes you a salesperson. I think some people think salespeople are like sleazy car salesmen, but I don't look at it like that at all. What we're adding in terms of value and decision making, and that's why you got to get really good at your craft. At the beginning, you might not be, you might not know everything. You got to rely on other people at your company or on your team, but hone in, get good at your craft, know your products, know what the process is like. You your systems where you teach the perfect loan process, right? Everyone should know about that, right? So that they're serving people well. And when you do those things, you gain confidence. When you do the activities, you gain confidence that I will call, like I used to be scared of the phone. Now I will call anyone and say anything. Like I don't care. I just have no fear towards it. But that takes time and that takes repetition. I feel like the worst thing that people can say is no, but if they say yes, like what could this unlock? And it's an adventurous business and something that's been extremely beneficial in my life. And a lot of people that I work with, like at first it was about the client. And 4 years ago, I took a step back to help other loan officers and, branch managers, area managers, sales managers help, with these skill sets, with the mindset, with the product to create a great experience and basically to help build a life that they design that's going to impact others. So I feel like I can have a bigger impact with working with a large amount of loan officers because we make such a difference in other people's lives and their biggest purchase. And it's an extremely rewarding, position. So
I want everybody to take note of what Caryn just articulated, because underneath the surface of everything that she said was just a ton of positivity. And I think that's what makes you an effective leader, is that I would have to imagine that the people that you are surrounded by are feeding off of this positive mindset that you're talking about. Gay Hendricks, who wrote he's written several amazing books, but he wrote a book called The Big Leap, which is a book assignment for our clients in the Leadership 360 Signature Program. And he was on my podcast. Gay said something super profound. He said, if you keep arguing for your limitations, you get to keep them. Okay. So sit with that for a minute. It's like, how much of that narrative that Caryn's talking about is a positive narrative versus a negative narrative? Or another way of saying it is, you don't have to believe everything that you think. Just because you have a thought and you're worried about something doesn't mean you have to believe it. I mean, we need to get really good, to your point, Caryn, at slowing things down, going inward and saying, oh, wait a minute. Is that narrative really the narrative that I want to be holding? Is that narrative really even true? Right. Or is it based upon some old story that we've concocted? So as an example, as I'm listening to you, I'm going like having someone say no hurts. Okay. I mean, that's really the rub, right? It's like they're saying no to me. They're rejecting me. Okay. And that's where we have call reluctance. So you've got this totally different narrative, which is I don't care. So where does that come from? Has that always been there, or is that something that you had to work on developing?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, it hasn't always been there. I remember when I first got into the mortgage business, I mean, I was fearful, I was scared. I worked for a broker. We had great products. But, I hadn't worked with realtors before, and I would literally go on the paper and I'd call them and ask them if they wanted to go to lunch with me. And I was partnered at the time with a friend that brought me into the business, and she really despised that kind of work. So she was like, you're good at that. So, I just picked up the phone and called him. And I remember sitting at lunch, and things were working out, like it was working. And the way we got business, it was rewarding, right? We're starting to build those relationships. And once you have several A+ quality, relationships, you're not wondering where your next deal is coming from. The steady flow of referrals is happening. And it's a fun business, and you're building so much momentum that it kind of feeds itself. So I would say, no, I mean, it took me a long time to say that, to ask for referrals. But you're right. Like I've seen other loan officers that don't do a great job for their clients. I've met them because they come to me like, hey, can you help me out? I'm closing in a few days and I don't know if I'm closing. I don't know, you know what I mean? And so you rescue these nightmare situations and you realize, gosh, we would never do that to a client. Like and so you kind of want to save people from that kind of experience. So I think that helped me to realize, because you kind of have that imposter syndrome when you first start in the business. You're like, who am I to do loans? At the time I started, I didn't have a mortgage. And I used to think these people know a lot more about mortgages because they're refinancing and they have one. And they were like, no, you know more than that. I'm like, I really didn't. So I did have to take a step back to build up my skills. But I would say it wasn't right away. And it was a lot of coaching and really mind work, and seeing success from it, I think did help drive, wanting to do more of it. And also feeling like I would want them to be taken care of by me. My slogan was Caryn for your mortgage. And I cared more than most people. I wasn't the smartest in the room. I was super hardworking and I cared a lot. And so I wanted to make sure they had a great experience and save them from, any other mortgage lender that wouldn't provide that.
So what I'm hearing you say that I think is really powerful is that you had this limiting belief in your consciousness, which, by the way, I did too.
You did?
I mean, I remember like not wanting to pursue CPAs or financial advisors as referral sources because I was, or super jumbo borrowers, because I was very fearful that they knew more about my craft than I did, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing you say is that you played a little internal mental game that I think was really powerful, which is you said, I may not know, but my superpower is that I care. And that became more powerful than any insecurity that you had around maybe not having that early wisdom that you felt like you needed to have. You did know that you were a hard worker and you cared more. And I think that's a really beautiful and valuable value proposition within oneself. I mentioned Sam Rosenblatt earlier, and I want to speak to what you shared as it relates to, knowing product. It's almost like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Like, I totally agree with you that when you first start in the business, one of the great insecurities that we have is just, we know that we don't know shit. So that it makes it really hard to pursue people when you got that narrative running. So it's really important that, you're a student of your craft, to your point, and you spend the extra hours and understanding underwriting guidelines and talking with AEs about products, and to where you really can bolster that, right? But then from there, it kind of gets flipped, because it's almost like the more loans you do, the more confident you get. So it's like you can't really get the ultimate confidence. Like when I look at Sam as an example, Sam knows underwriting guidelines as well as anybody I know. And that's because he does a lot of loans. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of at-bats, you get a lot of looks, you look at a lot of different scenarios. There's only so many scenarios out there. Every once, after a while, you're like, I've seen it all, or I've seen most of it. And that gives you confidence. But you can't get there if you don't do more loans, which gets back to your original thing, which is you got to get out there and you've got to engage people and you got to get yourself opportunities. Like the metaphor that I love to use is baseball, because it's my sport. That's what I love. Yeah. My great passion. It's like expecting to be a good hitter when you sit on the bench 6 days of the week and you pinch hit and get one at bat a week. You're never going to become a good hitter. The only way you're going to become a good hitter is to get out there and get into the batter's box and figure it out. So that's a great deal of what I'm hearing you say. I want to go to the subject matter now of value proposition. And what I heard you say with the school teacher. What's her name, by the way, so we can call her by name?
So her name's Harmony Frimpong.
Beautiful name. So Harmony. So in Harmony's case, she was pitching, for lack of a better term, the fact that she had a great backstop, right? Like she's on this team that's extremely experienced, which helped quell some of her potential insecurities in the early days of doing this. So when you're coaching originators on creating a value proposition, going and engaging on that coffee appointment with that real estate agent, I mean, what are the value propositions that you feel are really impactful and helpful for originators to bring to a potential new relationship?
That's a great question. And recently I met with a new hire and I was so excited about this person too. She was in LOA for a really long time. And she's going out on her own. But when she talks about the files she saved from helping people, like she's dialed in, she knows how to originate loans. She knows loans. She's been through a lot of files, and you can just tell like the passion that she has for helping people and how she figured out this VA loan that no one else could figure out. And she had this other loan. And I'm like, if I'm sitting with her, I just want to give her business because I feel like she's capable. She's excited. And when I was originating, I remember an appraiser that we used that I didn't know well gave me his personal loan. And I thought, what? why did you give it to me? Like, I know he has connections, a lot of places. He said, you just seem really excited about what you do. And I'm like, wow, I am, but I didn't know that like people were picking up that. So that energy is caught. Um, you have to go with what you do know, right? So if you're sitting down with someone and you got to get the basic value prop of what your company can offer. We've got an amazing operations team. I hold the client's hand from start to finish. We co-market with the realtor. I'm hungry. Like people that are brand new to the business, they got to hustle and work hard because they don't have those relationships. So what can you do to add value? I would ask a lot of questions in the beginning with realtors, like what's their biggest challenge in the market right now? How do they see, how do they view loan officers in general? What can a loan officer help with, and kind of figure out like where you could work alongside them to add value. And then I would kind of get them excited about things that we could do together. So whether, if I was good at social media at the time, social media wasn't as hot when I was like really in my prime. It was more about, putting together like events, hosting events with them and, helping them with their logo and things like that. Just things that were kind of special. I would listen to really what their needs were when I was talking to them. And then I would follow up, I remember this one loved cooking, and I got her like an apron that said something about cooking. And she thought that was so special. This one realtor loved McDonald's and I sent her a McDonald's gift card, just a small thought. It was a funny thing. She said she loved it and she couldn't believe that I sent her like a McDonald's gift card. But, you're listening, that you're actively listening and that you realize like that you want to add value. But in terms of like what your value is, I would say that you're, available, that you walk the client through the process. I would show them, we use Mortgage Coach here, but I think that's pretty impressive how we show them the different options. We counsel the client with the consultation and the little extras that we add to the process to make it really special. If you're brand new and you don't have a client that's closed yet, you can just talk about the client that your team just recently served and, tell a story about a win. And also just know like what products are good right now. Right now, like if I'm talking to a realtor, I'm talking about buying without selling. We have a bridge loan product that we use, but I talk about more about the consultation approach of working with the client to see what their best needs are for the product. And then I would say like, to know what kind of products your company offers that would be beneficial to the realtor. And a lot of them glaze over about product. They don't want to know, you don't want your flyers but just knowing that you have the ability to counsel their clients and hold their hand, shows that you would be a really good partner.
Yeah, it's pretty astonishing as to how few originators, whether they're new or not, understand the importance of walking that potential referral partner through how you would treat their client and the value that you would bring to that client and how you would make them look good and hopefully ultimately help them generate new future referral business because you as teammates created a smooth and impactful experience, as you pointed out earlier.
I love that you said that. That is so key. Is, because a lot of realtors might say like, are you going to be able to refer me or things like that? But it's like, hey, when we knock it out of the park for our mutual client and we let them know that we both work by referral, my hope is to generate 5 new referrals during the process, right? And who wouldn't want that? For sure.
Yeah, I didn't figure that out until about halfway through my career, the importance of saying to an agent, I'd like to walk you through what would transpire when you were kind enough to send someone to me and why it would be impactful. And what I didn't expect, Caryn, in addition to it being impressive, was it completely changed the way that they referred me abstractly. Like I didn't ask for them to change the way, but all of a sudden now they had a new narrative to go by in the way that they spoke of me when they made the referral. So
Right.
as an example, I actually want to regress for a moment because there's something else you said that I think is super important, which is you're talking about identifying what you have in your arsenal to bring to this engagement that comes on the heels, as I think you importantly said, of first asking them a lot of questions about them, getting to know
Right.
them, making it about them, not making it about you. Don't go in hot trying to be a pushy salesperson. Go in really with the intention to connect. And even if you don't talk about yourself at all in the first meeting, that's actually a huge win in my mind. Make it about them.
I do think that's a huge win. I have had situations where you're with a realtor about 40 minutes in, it's ending and you haven't said anything about yourself. If you find yourself in that scenario, I would suggest saying, hey, I just wanted to, I'd be like remiss if I didn't mention a few things about Atlantic Coast because I would love to work with you in the future, and I wanted to let you know that, X, Y, and Z. Because what I found is sometimes salespeople are really good listeners and that person leaves and feels so good about themselves, but literally knows nothing about you. And you got to kind of flip it a little bit back to business because, you get two women together, they're just chatting, everything about this person. And then the next thing you know, you've made a new friend, but you want a referral partner. So you want to put a little bit of that competency piece back into the conversation. I would just suggest.
Okay. And yet at the same time, it's like when to strategically come in at the right time and to articulate something that would perk their interest, right? That you do that makes you special. So like when I first started, my whole career, I was a broker. So one of the things that I had in my arsenal from the very beginning was a variety of product, right? Like I could shop around, quote unquote, for the best program and best rate, whereas maybe a mortgage banker had limitations on what they had to offer. So I would use that to my advantage. So you have to assess for yourself as an originator, depending upon, you could flip it over. And if you work for a direct lender as a mortgage banker, you could talk about the fact that you have speed to close you have direct access to your underwriter. You could sit down with your underwriter and the guidelines. Your underwriter's always educating you on the guidelines. You get deals done that a lot of times other loan originators can't get done because they don't have that access to the underwriter, et cetera. You got to figure out though, like what can you bring to the table that makes you unique, not just from the perspective of what they would be interested in, but maybe even more importantly, from the perspective of it's something that you could talk about with confidence. And I liked what you said earlier about telling stories. Telling stories are, first of all, much more engaging.
Yeah.
Okay. And then secondly, it's much easier to tell a true story than to talk about yourself. I think that for a lot of people, it can be hard to talk about themselves and to kind of walk that tightrope of sounding arrogant versus humble, which is another thing that I used to love to do is I used to love to talk about my team. And I would talk about my process. The toughest question, and I'm going to hit you with it right now. It's something that I did with Caleb LeGrand in a recent podcast. So be ready. The toughest question that you will ever get asked is why you? Now, they may either verbalize it or they may be thinking it. But even if they're thinking it, it's still the question that they have. So that's the question ultimately that you're having to answer. And I think it could be a very difficult question to answer if you have to talk about you. So if you can talk about things that you have in your arsenal that aren't specifically you, that can make it an easier dialogue. So now I'm going to hit you with a question. We're going to role play for a minute. I told you this is going to be a completely organic dialogue.
I love it.
Okay, so we're sitting together. We're having coffee for the first time. And I'm going to ask you the question, why you? Why would I send my business to you? I currently have a lender that I'm already working with.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about myself, but if I was new or, depending on what you have to, shake your moneymaker. You have to go with like what is unique to you. But so I would always say well, I'm caring for your mortgage. And what that means is I care more about mortgages than probably most of my peers, even that are at my own company, right? And so I'm working when you're working, and what you need in this business right now is someone to partner with, right? Because there's a lot of clients that are on the fence about buying, right? And they really have to understand the finances to make good decisions. So what I've found is most helpful is sitting with, and I like to meet people face to face, even if it's on Zoom, to really get a good idea of what they're looking to do, right? And so, I've been in the business 22 years. I've seen it all. And what I do is I hold the client's hand from start to finish. So like recently I was just on a call with someone and they were, 75 and 78 years old, and they have questions about, what's the best mortgage for them. They need more access to cash. They're living in a high cost area, but they have a lot of assets. So we were talking about, the different options available to them. And so what I enjoy the most is really just sitting down and like working out the scenario. And so I think what sets me apart is my personality and the way that I do a consultation with a client. What sets, and I personally picked ACM to be a part of because they align with my values and our abilities to get things done. So whether you need someone who, whether you have a client that's like looking to close in 10 days, it's something that we can do, and that we help you get your offer to the top of the pile, right? Because we have the ability to look at things in advance. We have the ability to underwrite the file before, and provide a commitment. We have the ability to have a conversation with a client. I mean, in this competitive market, I don't know if you've experienced this, Mr. Realtor, but, there's multiple offers.
My name's Tim, actually.
Oh, Tim, yes. I'll never forget your name. But I don't know if you'll, if you're experiencing this right now, but when there's multiple offers, and you have to pick which one you're going with, the ACM name stands for itself, but then also, getting the client comfortable with waiving things, with the current rates and what programs are available. All of that is a skill at high level. And so, I think my record speaks for itself, but it's a combination of my, consultation approach and just partnering with you in, making a great experience for the client and getting multiple referrals, from those people and building your business alongside mine.
So what I loved so much about, first of all, thank you for, I realize it could be a little bit difficult when you don't even see this question coming, right? So thanks a lot for playing with me there. And there are a lot of things that I loved.
Your next deal?
You got all my business. Okay. The thing is that you really did unintentionally, but I presume that it was, just natural for you, and because you didn't see it coming, you covered a lot of the things that we talked about. You talked about them and how it would benefit them to work with you as a result of you being very focused on trying to do a great job and generate future referrals. You talked about how you could help them get deals done that maybe somebody else that does what you do for a living couldn't help them get done. You sold your company and the value proposition of your company, which is infinitely easier. But most importantly is that you came with confidence in yourself, but you didn't sound arrogant in any way. It wasn't like you were patting yourself on the back and coming from a place of insecurity. You came from a place of humble confidence, which is, I think, the place that we all want to strive to arrive at.
Thank you. I also do say one other thing I didn't say in this, but I say, I understand that when you refer someone, you're putting your name to it. So if it's if it's not a great experience, that kind of takes something out of your bucket. But if you refer someone and the experience is even better, it's going to make you look better. So that's kind of what I strive for with my referral partners, is that I'm going to make them look, amazing in the process.
Wonderful. Let's talk about builders. It's not an area that I have a ton of experience in personally. I did work with a few, but there are people that I know that it's their primary source of business, and sounds like you're one of those people. And I think, you can make a strong case for the fact that that's a place that most originators should be focusing right now, because those are the creators of the inventory and we have an inventory problem. So, and there's also ancillary benefits, right? Sometimes those buyers don't actually buy in that builder track, and then you can refer them to a real estate agent and all those types of things. But what's your approach? How do you target builders? Like, how do you identify the ones that you're going to pursue? And then what's the approach? Like, do you try to climb it up the ladder to whoever's in charge, or do you try to cultivate a relationship with the sales reps? All of the above. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, well, it's all about networking, right? So, and with the realtors, you can kind of like see who you want to target and then see who they know and get an introduction, things like that, or just call them and mention the other person that, you have mutually in common. With builders, it's a little harder because you have to figure out who the decision maker is at the builder. So you have builders like NVR Homes and some of these bigger ones that have in-house mortgage companies. That's not going to be, the best bet for an IMB to go after. You do have some bigger companies that have a lot of fallout business. So I do a lot of fallout business for a builder in our area who they do more of the vanilla stuff. So if they have like a self-employed borrower or somebody like with a jumbo loan, and they just kind of hand it over and they're like, you know what, we know they'll be well served here, because their lender tends to like put their nose in it and then just can't figure it out, and then the clients get frustrated. So just really good service, and now we've have a proven track record. So you could go after those types. Ideally, you go after a builder that doesn't have an in-house mortgage company, and so there's three clients with the builder. There's the client that comes into the project and buys the house. There's the sales manager, the sales rep that works at the site, and then there's the executive management there. So you have to realize that when you're serving builders, you need to serve all three of those people. They're all your clients, and you need to know when to appropriately communicate with each of them. So that aside, though, just to go ahead and get the business, it is kind of like a home run. Talking about baseball, it's more of like a home run or like a huge agent, right? Because once you get it, it's going to feed a lot of leads. So it's definitely, the juice is worth the squeeze, but you're going to have to be active and go after it hard. So I would say if you didn't know anyone, you should go to the sales reps at the sites. Just go to the sites and figure out who's who, right? And I would go on to LinkedIn and look up these people, see if you know of anybody that knows them. I serve mostly the DMV area, Maryland, Virginia, and DC, but primarily Virginia. And you're looking to book that meeting with the decision maker. So a lot of times the decision maker is the sales reps will like recommend who they like, but the decision maker is like the district manager or something like that. So you're trying to get an appointment with them and you're trying to pitch your company. And I will tell you, we had a recent win as a company with a builder. And they were looking, for a good lender, and it was an interesting story how it all went down. But we ended up winning it, showing them what our company had to offer, all the products and stuff. But also, like, a large portion of your value prop is yourself. It's what it's like you said, the confidence, the positivity, the energy. Builder reps, they have a captive audience. So when they get a lead, that person comes in, they're trying to sell that person that day. And so it's really key that you're super responsive, because the financing is, a big piece of it. So we were able to demo that and using Mortgage Coach actually. But so I would say, go into the sales rep, go to LinkedIn, network. You can go to some of the builder organizations and try to meet people there. They have like builder prom around us through like the builder association. So you can try to network there, but you're trying to get one-on-one appointment to build the relationship.
I love what you said about the LinkedIn thing. I think that's a great call in terms of trying to create some warmth to the introduction, or at least be able to name drop, right? Like some mutual acquaintances that you both know. The other thing that I kind of gleaned from that is, I guess if I were approaching a builder right now, and just check me on this, tell me if you agree, I think I would really, really become a student of non-QM, right? So like to be able to show them, that you have access to money that their existing in-house lender likely doesn't. And it's not even just the access to it, it's the competence, right? Like it's the competence around how to articulate that product to a buyer and how to get them to move forward and buy the home, even though their interest rate is higher. I know several loan originators who are friends of mine who are really good in the non-QM space. And I think that what they really bring to the table that's special is that they know how to get the conversation off of rate very quickly and move it to the value of being able to get the home. And to be able to have that pitch down and to have that presentation down and to present it to a builder and say, hey, look, you're going to you surely have people that wanted to buy in your home development over the last 24 months that didn't, because perhaps your existing in-house lender doesn't know how to sell this product because it's quite unique. And that's my specialty. And that's something that I would like to have a shot at doing those loans. So instead of you losing those sales, maybe you salvage several of them as a result of introducing them to me, because I know how to explain this really well. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that. Yeah. And any product in particular where you can, if they have an in-house relationship and they're, you're just trying to get a slice to get them to get to know you a little bit, offering the DSCR, bridge loans, which new construction, they're not used that often. Like we'll do like a bridge loan that's never going to happen, just so they feel comfortable about taking on the risk of a client that wants to sell their house closer to closing. But yeah, knowing your product and why it would be valuable, and also showing them like that you can explain it, right? Because with the builder stuff, you're coming alongside the builder rep to help, facilitate the sale. And those conversations are very powerful. And they're not every loan officer, even ones that do a lot of business, know how to do that, right? To have that financial conversation to get people comfortable. There's a lot of psychology into this stuff, right? Because
sure.
Like I remember this was years ago, but I was like, there was like a $4,000 payment, and I was telling the people had seen a model home or they wanted to buy this house, new construction. And so I sent them the numbers, and I thought, gosh, it's, payment looks a little high to me, but I mean, that's what it was. But, and they were like, whoa, this is a high payment. I said, oh, okay. Well, what did you think it was going to be? And they told me like $1,000 less. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I could probably get it down a couple hundred if we buy down the point, and I can show you that. But, and then, so I fixed it up a little bit, got it down probably another $150, sent it over. And they're like, okay. But like at the time for me, if I was purchasing and I thought something was $1,000 less, and then someone showed me something that was like $850 more. So they were buying way different than I would have bought. And I think like just having multiple reps, realizing that not everyone purchases the way that you do. It was just interesting. New construction's a little bit different in that way. Just because people, you're getting a lot of leads. They're coming in off the street. I've sat at model homes before where someone, was sitting in a $1.2 million model home, and the woman was looking around, and, I was approaching her and trying to get her to get some information. I said, well, how much money do you have to put down? And she said, 6. And I said, 6. And she said, $6,000. And that was going to be the monthly payment. So, I mean, it was like she was in the house and she had no intention of probably following through with a purchase. So there's you get a lot of leads, and you got to draw everyone in, but there's a lot of different people buying with a lot of different situations and kind of deciphering who's who.
So let's pivot to the present day for a minute. And we've been spending some time there, but what I really want to take a look at is you've been in the business for a long enough period of time for sure to be able to reflect upon like, how are things now in the present moment and your predictability of the future versus the past for an originator? What does an originator in your estimate, say in the next 12 to 24 months, need to be doing to stay up to speed and at pace with artificial intelligence, technology, things like that maybe wasn't as necessary in the past? Have you been able to identify any of those things that you're seeing in a changing market?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely goes back to mindset again. I was talking with a high producing loan officer at our company, And I mean, we were talking about how we kind of live in our own little world, right? Like I don't pay attention too much to stuff that I cannot control. I used to have a loan officer that I was friends with over the years, and she would be like, "Oh, this is going on with RESPA," and I'm like, "Okay, I don't. I'm working with people that can buy now. I'm focused on lead generation. I'm focused on the people I'm working with. I can't control RESPA. I can't control, a lot of things that are going on. And so what I can control is my calls, my notes, my pop buys, you know, sitting down face to face with people, being bold, setting myself apart in that way. Because that's the thing. Like I look at this market and I'm extremely excited because I feel like the people that are in it, if they follow working by referral and building their business, it doesn't matter what market, they'll attach themselves to some of these technology tools. They're great. I mean, I use them on the daily, but I'm supporting, you know, I look at it like you used to have to advertise in the paper and get these leads. And now, you can serve people so much better because of the technology that you have. But you also have to be present. You can't just phone everything, and not everything should be an email. There's still value in that connection that you have with the client. Otherwise, it will become all about rate. It will become all about, they might as well go online if there's no connection with a human. So I would say I focus on and encourage other loan officers to focus on the value that they bring through connections, being a local lender, and learn the tools to support your business. We have an incredible CRM that we use that allows you to, video has been amazing, right? Because with video, you feel like you've met the person, you feel like you know the person. With social media, you're following different people are following you. They feel like they know you when you present content. So over the last 6 months, I've invested a lot in social media, my time, energy, and money. Just because now when I meet people, there's also, things going on in the background that they can get to know me better and I can get to know them better. So I support it, but I think that at the forefront has to be lead generation based on connection. Face to face is ideal. I want to get people face to face because I want to connect with them, and that's the best way to do it.
Well, I think you articulated that beautifully. I think that you have to be staying on top of the tools that are available to make your job easier and to make yourself more dynamic. But I also think that the more that technology becomes a part of the equation, the more people are going to miss connection and miss interaction. So I really believe that you nailed it there. Let's talk about energy. You've mentioned that a few times, and we've talked about mindset. Two-part question. The first is, are there any books that you could direct people to that you think are particularly valuable associated with mindset and energy? And then secondly is, what do you personally do to make sure that you're investing the time into managing your energy? Is there any type of morning routine you do, or is there any type of ritual that you have that makes sure that you're vibrating at a pretty high level?
Yeah, so I think I was feeding off a natural energy when I was younger, and now I have to be more cognizant. I've built in more margin in between like meetings where I used to be able to just go one thing to the next to the next. So I've been cognizant of that. In terms of my morning routine, I like to work out in the morning or I don't get it done. I wake up between around 6 o'clock and I'll do a workout in the morning. I want to take my kids to school. I have 3 boys, 15, 13, and 11, and I want to take them to school in the morning. So I'm a little bit slower in the mornings than I used to. I used to be like early bird gets the worm, but I start work around 9, and then I'm pretty scheduled with like the things that I do. I'm more of a free spirit, but in order to get a lot of things done, I have a little bit of help, with an assistant that keeps me scheduled and some of the boundaries and some of the goals that I have. But you're talking about energy. I would say I could use a little more of it. I will tell you that I'm not a big coffee drinker. It doesn't do well for me, but I would say moving my body is probably the number one thing that I've realized. And I'm not an expert on health. I would wish I was. That's something that I work on a lot because I do struggle with it, right? I know that you've got a lot of practices. You probably be better sharing that information than me.
Well, I think that, I mean, we do have to invest into some segment of time every day, I believe, into what's going on between the ears.
Yeah.
And that drives the energy that we're bringing. I mean, if we're having negative thought patterns, then we're going to vibrate at a very low frequency, and people are going to feel that, and they're not going to be drawn to us. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it as to how many people don't spend time on a consistent ritualized basis of reinvesting into their self-awareness of their thought patterns, and that subsequently drives their energy. But I think it's different for everyone. You know, I think that there is no one way that's the right way. I mean, everybody is unique. There's something that lifts you up and makes you feel good, like moving your body, may not be my thing. Although I'm definitely that person too, by the way. I definitely try to make sure that I go on a good long walk every morning, and I listen to music.
I do a lot of walks. Do you play pickleball?
I do sporadically, although when I'm in Costa Rica, I play a lot because there are courts really close to my house, and a lot of my neighbors play, and I love it. Got to be careful. I think it's the most dangerous sport in America because it seduces old people into thinking that they're young again, and it's like super easy to get hurt. I tore a calf muscle playing last November, so I was on crutches for about 2 weeks, something like that. But yeah, I mean, but the bottom line is, I think it's what does it for you? Like, I love to be on a surfboard. Like, to me, like when I'm on a surfboard, like my whole like experience of life changes. So like, I know that if I could get out there and just paddle and just be out on the water, that's like really, really powerful for me. But I think it's important for everyone to identify what does it for them. I mean, meditation can take on a lot of different forms. You brought up presence earlier. And being in the present moment. I mean, I think that's the thing to identify is, you know, what makes you present.
I mean, I've always done a lot with personal and professional coaching. So, and I've switched it up a lot in the last bit and made it more about health and wellness. And so I just finished like a 5-week program that, which is pretty cool. It was a lot of meditating, which is something that I find very difficult because I have a hard time sitting still. So, but I know that it's powerful and has a lot of benefits. And I mean, I play pickleball. I lift weights. I do Pilates. I try a lot of different things. But yeah, having fun with it, doing stuff that you enjoy. I love the water. Love pools, lakes, ocean. All that stuff.
So your 3 boys are getting ready to have a nice life experience because you just bought a new home that has a pool. So congratulations on that. And they're going to hopefully enjoy it this summer quite a bit.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited. It's something it was a want, not a need, and not something that I allowed myself to do recently after talking about it probably to everyone that knows me for 20 some years. Anyone that has a pool, oh, you have a pool, you have a pool. I like love pools. And it's something that I just went ahead and was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I'm excited.
Well, the previous episode of this show that aired 2 weeks before the airing of this one is a solo episode with me on meditation. So you may want to go listen to that. I think that, you know, meditation can be greatly misunderstood as to what it is. And also, I think people could benefit a lot by understanding what the true benefits of it are. And it's something that I've been doing for about 25 years now, pretty consistently. So, and I find it to be critically important to my morning routine. Okay, final question. I like to ask this question of everyone. You can take it anywhere you want. Where you take it is perfect. So I want to take you into a time machine, and I want to take you back to your 18-year-old self. And you get to have a conversation with Caryn when she was 18 from the place that you're at right now. And I'm not going to ask you how old you are right now because that's not polite to do with a lady.
Oh, I'll tell you. I'll tell you anything. I'm 46.
Okay. So the 46-year-old Caryn gets to talk to the 18-year-old Caryn. And what I'd like to know is, what is the advice that she would like to share with that 18-year-old girl?
Gosh, that's powerful. Well, I think it's that you're made for more, and it's not just accumulating more, but it's, and you should be proud of yourself for helping other people and living a life that is authentically yourself, which has taken me a long time to do, but and I'm still working on it daily, but they're in Northern Virginia and in a lot of places, you follow the path of like, go to this school, get these grades, get this job, all this stuff, but really encouraging people to write your own path and try to have, try to give back and help others, when you've risen up.
Beautiful. Now you have a new book that you've written. Is that not true?
It is. I do. Yes. So there's always something in my heart to write about my childhood. And also just the weight and responsibilities of all the things that you're, doing. So in Northern Virginia, I'm a mom of 3 and I'm a wife and loan officer that's, high producer, and I'm in leadership, and I'm a mom of kids that play travel sports, and, things get kind of crazy and busy. And I wanted to talk about like the weight of all of the responsibilities. A lot of them are self-induced, right? But and so that kind of had been on my heart for a while, and I wanted to write a book. And I was working with a mentor, a coach, and that person is Italian, and so Raquel was my coach, and she was like, I can help you write a book. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll think about it. Had some things that I was writing down that I was excited to share. And I went to Italy on a leadership retreat with a bunch of other women. And I was in an art museum in Florence, and I saw a painting called The 7 Virtues. And it really just spoke to me. It was 7 women. It was painted like 700 years ago. The virtues are fortitude, prudence, temperance, justice, faith, hope. And so I just had to leave that art museum right after I saw it. And I just started writing. It kind of flowed out when I took the time away from my busy schedule, my busy life. And so I started focusing on it. And it was such a learning experience too, because a lot of people have good intentions. They want to write a book, but it's like, how do you actually get that out the door? I've found that I have, sometimes great vision, but I can't always get things out the door without help. So I hired, someone to help me with that. And it was a project, and it was super fun. And at the end of the day, it honestly felt like a little bit of artwork, when it was finished. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. It was a lot about my childhood and the virtues and finding your extraordinary identity, and your own unique identity. And so, it was a really cool learning experience to go through it. There are a lot of self-doubt, who am I to do these things? And is it good enough? It's funny. I let my brother read it because, we grew up together. I have one brother, and he read it, and he's like, what? It feels like your first book, which I always think is funny. A lot of people, even in sales and in book writing and all these things, you think like, am I good enough? People question themselves. Are they good enough? And the answer is yes, you are. Right. And so I hope people can see that in anything that they're trying to do and achieve, that, we look at other people and we compare and it steals our joy, but really look within, because there's so much there untapped.
So where can we get a copy of your book?
Yeah. So on my website, caryngrafton.com, it's all about the book's on there, where to order it. It's on Amazon. It's called Made for More, The 7 Virtues of an Extraordinary Life. And
it was ignited by your visit to the Uffizi Gallery, I believe, yes?
Yes. You've got those roots.
Yes.
Have you seen it, the 7 Virtues?
I have. I've been to the Uffizi many times. I'll be going there again in September. Florence is my special place. So awesome. I love the fact that we have that connection, and that that city was so inspiring to you. I mean, when you look at the history of that city, it inspired many, many great works, right? From Michelangelo to Da Vinci to Raffaello to et cetera. So Botticelli. So, and now Caryn Grafton. So, it was really wonderful to spend this time with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
You're very welcome. And listeners, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you're having a beautiful month, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.